It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of the noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only. There were a king with a large jaw and a queen with a plain face on the throne of England. There were a king with a large jaw and a queen with a fair face on the throne of France. In both countries it was clearer than crystal to the lords of the state, preserves of loaves and fishes, that things in general were settled forever. My father, his sister, right after, I believe, my grandmother Peggy died, I believe, so they had a lot of money, and they were traveling, Both my father were traveling with his sister and with my mother and her brother, and I'm realizing now they were, maybe not my sister, my aunt was a drinker, Irish, whatever. But I don't think she was doing hard drugs. No, she didn't. She wouldn't. I don't think she even knew, really. That's how The Secret is so good, But yeah, my father was definitely shooting up. It's me and my sister. Each people in these pictures, they're not on speaking terms with one another. In fact, at this point, I've talked to my aunt, who, trust me, in my darker days when I was my father's son and I didn't understand why she kicked us out of my childhood home, randomly. I didn't like her. She's a Trump supporter. Oh my God, she's from Texas. Texas? Holy shit. I've been down to Texas one time in Houston, man. I understand. People is people, all right? I love her. I love her. She helped me really understand a lot about where my father is at. And it was just one thing she said, and she didn't even mean to. That made me understand why my father became Batman. But why he always wanted to be Alfred. Why he needed to be Alfred. Despite the Two-Face, Despite the... his Toxic Avenger. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, But it's not like comics. We can't. We tried to frame it, but it's... light in the darkness. Trapped in the Trap House, Part 2, Chapters 1 through 33. Down by the dark yard, when the music died. I don't know how familiar you are with the Bible. I've read it a little bit here and there. And we all know the story of Abraham and Isaac, the Lamb of God. When God's his most piece of shit. When he's like, hey, kill your son. Allow me to recite off of memory, similar to how Samuel Jackson's character Pulp Fiction had memorized Ezekiel 25:17 for specific occasions. I've actually have memorized. I forget who wrote it. It was some Jewish mystical prophet. I don't know, one of the more obscure books, like the Book of Judas. But yeah, he described the story pretty well. So, God said to Abraham, kill me a son. Abe said, man, you must be putting me on. God said, no. Abe said, what? God said, yeah, you can do what you want, Abe, but next time you see me coming, man, you better run. Abe said, well, you want this killing done? Over there on Highway fucking 91, my brother. Okay, now I know it's Highway 61. I know that was Bob Dylan, but allow me to bring it all back home for a little bit. Highway 91 the Interstate Highway 91, which I believe runs from pretty much the New Haven port up to Canada. More than 84, I now know that was the roads I'd be on very often. The roads my father would drive. Oh man, let me tell you about this Ford Escort, man. It's the greatest car known to man, my brother. Let me tell you about that, man. The fucking shit held together better than my parents. Let me tell you that much. I don't know where it is now. My father had so many cars. I grew up white trash. Like 3 cars in the backyard that just broke forever. Nice cars. I'm talking historical. I'm talking like those shits were up to date right now. 6 figures. 6 figures for some of these cars they could get. Talking fucking Cadillacs and fucking shit. We used to play in them. Amongst the filth and the refuse, my sister and I used to play in them. That was our fucking playscape. Just fucking roasted down, musty ass cars, you know. Never learned how to drive. My father was an amazing driver, but again, reckless. So I think about, and again, mind you, John Lennon was a heroin addict. Heroin, you know, to simplify, broke up the Beatles. Yoko and John did a lot of heroin together. John would beat his wife, and he abused his children. And he would hit people, he would hurt people, he would abuse people, because John Lennon, in addition to all the other substances he abused, again, the shadow of Liverpool. Cold turkey has got me on the run. Mother Superior jumped the gun. Mother, don't do what I had done. So yeah, John Lennon was a heroin user. Most of the 70s, that's why he kind of fell off the radar. You remember that famous thing of like, instant karma's gonna get you. Like, look at his face. He's strung out. Everybody was strung out. The 60s ruined people. They destroyed people. Andy Warhol, The Factory, that's what, like, Dylan was talking about. That's why Dylan was so pissed, because Dylan also was an addict. And he saw what Warhol would do, how Warhol would abuse people, fuck people, like the orgy porgy. Do you, Mr. Jones? Listen to Mr. Jones. Listen to Ballad of the Thin Man. It's about a fucking weird pansexual orgy porgy. You know? It's obvious. Every fucking other line is about someone getting their dick sucked. It's a metaphor for a dick, but we don't want to see that because we're too busy dicking around, you know. Gone just like matches. The parts we throw away. But yeah. So apparently John Lennon actually had really thought he'd sobered up. That's why near the end, in 81, when he died, like, and some people hated him for this, he wasn't with Yoko. He was maybe with somebody else who was going to eventually become, you know, codependent enabling, but he wasn't. He'd left. You know. Listen to, why do you think the art Yoko did was so fucking weird? Like, Basquiat, all these people. Some of your favorite artists now, they're strung out. And they, because that was able to tap in, the drugs were able to tap into something in them. They feel like they cannot be creative without that. But you can. I think. I don't know. I haven't smoked weed yet. I'm doing the spoiler alert. 1 through 5. Just the tea. The tea in me. Hey, brother, man, but later, man, I'm going to tell you what, man. But, yeah, so John Lennon had sobered up. He'd apparently had, you know, one a day at a time. But he started to use sensory deprivation tanks. You remember altered states? Like, those are very effective. You know, the rich and the elite still use it as a weird kind of transcendent, you know. It's, trust me, I've taken enough acid and my senses have been deprived. Like I told you, I had that blindfold on my eye, you know, I'd hear the tinnitus ring, the ringing, the echoes of the shadows of the molestations, of the bodies falling from 9/11, but, you know. Sometimes we don't allow ourselves to see what we don't want to see. We deprive ourselves of the third eye. But anyway, Lennon gets sobered up. Like, even like his last album, you know, Double Fantasy, he talked to people on the phone, you know. He said, I'm gonna, you know, get one day at a time. But he could have made it. Maybe that's why. If you want to be a conspiracy theorist, you know, Mark David fucking Chapman. Seems weird, right? You look into that, he's talking like similar to the guy who tried to take out Reagan, you know, he's talking about reading these books, and it's like this mental illness. Just like today, we weaponize the mentally ill. You remember The Dark Knight? Remember when Harvey Dent's about to kill the dude, but then he realizes, oh, this is just some mental patient. QAnon shaman, who I believe is still on a hunger strike. QAnon shaman, my boy QAnon shaman's pulling a Bobby Sands because they don't have fucking vegan food. It's bullshit. I said it before, I'll say it again. Postmodern nonsense. But yeah. Oh man, the weed would really actually help tie these strings together. But they killed John Lennon. Was it just some weirdo? Was it a plan? Because don't get me wrong, Lennon was on the list. Lennon was on Nixon's list. Like I said before, how, they always fuck over the black people. Don't get me wrong. They would kill white people. They killed Bobby. They probably killed his brother. So many other names you don't know. Or names of people, fucking your Abby Hoffmans and whatnot, which just, fall into the trap. Inherent Vice is all about that. You fall into the trap. That's why, again, why did fentanyl all of a sudden show up and hit the streets? Like, right during a pivotal moment. Like, right during our summer of love kind of moment. Right after, Occupy Wall Street. Right when, it seemed like the people were going to maybe get the power back a little bit. And even we'd become disillusioned to Obama and his lies. We were going for Bernie. Bernie Sanders would have been our president. 2 separate occasions he would have won. Like, you can say, oh, well, Bernie's not perfect. Yeah, of course. We're human beings, we're not perfect. But Bernie would have been the most perfect president we had since Jimmy Carter. Why do you think they don't let Carter finish, He wasn't about this Iran-Contra nonsense, but Reagan was. Oliver North, the cocaine, the Trail of Tears, and the crack. I know this, not because I've read it, which I have, many different forms, seen it, because I lived it. Highway 91, my father driving up and down there, even probably when he almost crossed paths with Lennon, when he literally crossed paths with Lennon's death, it was him accepting his own death too, Highway 91 is for drug running. Oh my God, well, you're giving, everyone fucking knows this shit. That's why my father would always be speeding. Remember the end of Goodfellas? Oh, hey man, St. Anthony, man. My dad would be that way if he had just a tiny fucking speck, So he was clearly, you go where the drugs are. Requiem for a Dream. You go down to Florida, even if that means, the cops will pull you over, and next thing you know, you're in prison your whole life, or your arms amputated, your fucking mother's in an asylum, you're fucking ass to ass with the love of your fucking life, your fucking Daisy. Hey man, I'm just trying to find out, man, if this is really a roach or not, because I need to get fucking high, man. Oh, what's happening to everyone I love about, man? Everyone's fucking dying like John Lennon, man. Well, it's not my problem. What would John Lennon have done? What would Bob Marley have done? What would these people have done? Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to be sexist. Janis Joplin, all these female artists as well. Angela Davis made it through, but trust me, there were many people like Angela Davis who did not. Before Sandra Bland, there were many Sandra Blands, My father was never a great guitarist. Never really a great guitarist. But I told him that on his funeral, I was going to El Kabong him. That's what I said. I said, Dad, it's your funeral. I'll have to get into more later. It's going to be a good time whenever it happens, if it happens. But I said I'd take his guitar and I'd have him lift it up, and I would El Kabong his body into the grave. I need him to sign a waiver so I could do it. But unfortunately, his old guitar, well, my mother made sure to break that already. Epiphone, epigraph, the threads, the strands that snap, these loose connections, I really don't know, that's what I'm trying to do, sort of figure it out. But I promise you, on my father's guitar with my name on it, that I'm not going to end this by singing Nickelback's Photograph. That I can promise you.